The old school building creaked and groaned as winter wind pushed against its windows. Marcus Thompson pulled his worn jacket tighter around his shoulders and checked his watch. 9:30 at night. Still 3 hours of cleaning left before he could go home to his small apartment. Marcus had been working as the night janitor at Riverside Elementary School for 8 years now. At 45 years old, he knew every corner of the building, every squeaky door, every loose tile in the hallway, every classroom that needed extra attention. The pay was not much, just enough to cover his rent, groceries, and the occasional movie on weekends. But Marcus liked the quiet work. He liked knowing that when the children arrived in the morning, their school would be clean and ready for learning. He pushed his cleaning cart down the main hallway, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting long shadows on the polished floor. Marcus had mopped these same floors thousands of times, but he took pride in doing the job right. Tonight felt different, though, colder than usual. The heating system in the old building struggled during harsh Nebraska winters, and this February had been particularly brutal. Marcus could see his breath in some of the classrooms as he worked. He made his way to the cafeteria, one of his least favorite rooms to clean. Children were messy eaters, and the lunch staff never seemed to wipe down all the tables properly. Marcus sighed and began setting up his supplies. As he moved between the long tables, something caught his eye. A small movement near the back corner of the room. Marcus stopped and listened. The building was full of strange sounds at night, but this was different. He walked slowly toward the back of the cafeteria, past rows of empty tables and chairs. There, under the last table near the kitchen doors, he saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, was huddled in a tight ball. She was shaking, whether from cold or fear, Marcus could not tell. Her clothes were strange. They looked almost like they were made of metal, but they moved like fabric. The material seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Marcus set down his spray bottle and approached carefully. He did not want to frighten her more than she already was. "Hey there, little one," he said softly, crouching down to her level. "What are you doing here so late?" The girl looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. They were an unusual color, almost silver. She said something in a language Marcus had never heard before. The words sounded musical but urgent. "I don't understand," Marcus said gently. "Do you speak English?" The girl tried again, mixing in a few English words. "Cold, hungry, lost." Her voice was small and scared. Marcus felt his heart break a little. This child was clearly in trouble. He had no idea how she had gotten into the locked school building, but that did not matter right now. What mattered was that she needed help. "Are you hurt?" he asked, looking her over for injuries. She seemed physically okay, just scared and cold. The girl shook her head and pointed to her stomach. "Hungry," she repeated, one of the few English words she seemed to know clearly. Marcus nodded. He understood that word in any language. He had been hungry before, during the hard times after his divorce when money was especially tight. He knew what that desperation felt like. "Wait right here," he told her, holding up his hand in what he hoped was a universal gesture for staying put. Marcus walked quickly to his cleaning cart where he kept his dinner. It was not much. A peanut butter sandwich, an apple, and a thermos of vegetable soup his neighbor Mrs. Patterson had given him. She always made too much food and shared with Marcus, knowing he lived alone. He returned to the girl and sat down, cross-legged on the floor beside the table. The girl watched him carefully, ready to run if needed. Marcus unwrapped his sandwich and broke it in half. He offered one piece to the girl. "Here, eat." The girl hesitated for a moment, then reached out and took the sandwich with both hands. She bit into it eagerly, chewing quickly as if she had not eaten in days. While she ate, Marcus unscrewed the thermos cap and poured some soup into it. The warm liquid steamed in the cold air. He offered it to her carefully. The girl sniffed the Soup first, then tasted it. Her eyes widened with what looked like surprise and gratitude. She drank it quickly, holding the warm cap with both hands. "Slow down," Marcus said with a gentle smile. "You'll make yourself sick." The girl did not understand his words, but she seemed to understand his tone. She began eating more slowly, watching Marcus's face for signs of kindness or threat. Marcus took off his spare jacket, the one he kept in his cart for especially cold nights, and wrapped it around the girl's shoulders. She was so small that the jacket covered her completely. "Thank you," she whispered in accented English. "Thank you." Marcus felt a warm feeling in his chest despite the cold building. "You're welcome, sweetheart." They sat together in comfortable silence while the girl finished the food. Marcus shared his apple with her, cutting it into small pieces with the pocket knife he used for opening boxes. When she was done eating, the girl looked much better. The color had returned to her cheeks, and she no longer shook with cold or hunger. Marcus looked at his watch. It was past 10 now. He needed to finish his cleaning, but he could not leave this child alone. And he certainly could not let her go back outside into the freezing night. "Come on," he said, standing up and offering his hand. "You can stay in my office where it's warm." The girl took his hand trustingly. Her fingers were still cold, but warming up. Marcus led her to the small custodial office near the main entrance. It was not much, just a desk, a chair, and shelves full of cleaning supplies, but it was the warmest room in the building. Marcus pulled a stack of clean towels from a shelf and made a comfortable bed on the floor. The girl curled up immediately, still wearing his jacket like a blanket. "Sleep," Marcus said, miming pudding, his head on his hands. "I'll be nearby." The girl nodded and closed her unusual silver eyes. Within minutes, she was breathing deeply, finally safe and warm. Marcus dimmed the office light and left the door slightly open. He spent the rest of the night cleaning quietly, checking on the girl every hour. She slept peacefully through the night, occasionally murmuring words in her strange language. As dawn approached, Marcus finished his work and returned to the office. The girl was gone. His jacket was neatly folded on the desk with the towels, arranged tidily beside it. Marcus looked around the office and out into the hallway, but there was no sign of her anywhere. All the doors were still locked from the inside. He had no idea how she had gotten out. He picked up his jacket and noticed something had been left in the pocket. A small, smooth stone that seemed to glow faintly in the morning light. Marcus examined it for a moment, then slipped it back into his pocket. He assumed the girl had somehow found her way home to worried parents. Marcus was glad he had been able to help, even in such a small way. It felt good to know that somewhere in town, a little girl was safe and fed because he had shared his dinner. Marcus gathered his cleaning supplies and prepared to go home. Just another night at Riverside Elementary. Just another small act of kindness in a world that needed more of them. He had no idea that this simple gesture would soon change everything. 3 months had passed since Marcus found the strange little girl in the cafeteria. Winter had given way to spring, and the Nebraska weather had finally warmed up. The school was busy with end-of-year activities and preparations for summer break. Marcus had almost forgotten about that cold February night. Almost. But sometimes he would touch the smooth stone in his pocket and wonder about the girl with silver eyes. He hoped she was safe somewhere with her family. It was a quiet Thursday evening in May when Marcus saw her again. He was cleaning the third-grade hallway when he heard footsteps behind him. Marcus turned around, expecting to see the principal, or maybe a teacher who had stayed late. Instead, he saw a young woman walking toward him. She looked to be in her early 20s now, tall and confident. Her hair was dark brown and fell in soft waves around her shoulders. She wore simple blue jeans and a white sweater, but something about her seemed different, special. It was her eyes that made Marcus recognize her. Those same unusual silver eyes, though they now held wisdom that seemed far beyond her years. "Hello, Marcus," she said with a warm smile. Her English was perfect now, with just the slightest accent that Marcus could not place. Marcus leaned on his mop handle and stared at her in amazement. "You're the little girl from the cafeteria, but you look so much older now." The young woman nodded. "Time works differently where I come from. I have grown up since we last met, but for you it has only been 3 months. Marcus felt confused but curious. "Where do you come from? And how did you get into the school that night? All the doors were locked." "My name is Elena," she said, walking closer to Marcus. "And I owe you my life." She looked around the empty hallway, and then back at Marcus. "Is there somewhere we can talk privately? I have much to tell you, and some of it may be hard to believe." Marcus thought for a moment. The cafeteria would be empty at this hour. He led Elena through the familiar hallways, their footsteps echoing softly on the polished floors. In the cafeteria, Elena sat at one of the small tables where Marcus had found her months ago. Marcus sat across from her, still holding his mop, but giving her his full attention. "That night when you found me," Elena began, "I was not from around here. I am not from Earth at all." Marcus raised his eyebrows but did not interrupt. He had always been a good listener. "I come from a world called Arcturus Prime. It is very far from here, farther than you could imagine. I am part of the royal family there. My father rules over many worlds and billions of people." Elena paused, watching Marcus's face for signs of disbelief or fear. Marcus looked surprised but not afraid. "Go on," he said simply. "I was traveling on a diplomatic mission," Elena continued. "Our ship was attacked by raiders near your solar system. My escape pod was damaged and crashed here on Earth. The impact hurt my translation systems, which is why I could barely speak English that night." Marcus nodded slowly. It would explain the strange metallic clothes and how she had disappeared so mysteriously. "I was dying when you found me," Elena said, her voice becoming serious. "The cold was too much for my body to handle. I had not eaten in days. If you had not shared your food and kept me warm, I would not have survived until morning." "But you were just a hungry kid," Marcus said. "Anyone would have done the same thing." Elena shook her head firmly. "No, Marcus, not anyone. Many people would have called the police or ignored me completely. You asked no questions, you demanded no explanations, you simply saw someone in need and helped." She reached across the table and placed her hand on Marcus's arm. "In my culture, when someone saves your life, it creates a sacred debt. This debt must be repaid in full, no matter how long it takes or what it costs." Marcus felt uncomfortable. With the serious tone, "You don't owe me anything, I just shared my sandwich." "It was more than food," Elena said. "You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me kindness when I was afraid and alone. You trusted me when I was a stranger." Elena stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the quiet town beyond. "My people searched for me for months. They feared I had been captured or killed by enemies. My father sent entire fleets to look for me." She turned back to Marcus. "When I finally made contact with them, they were overjoyed. But when I told them how a human had saved my life, they were amazed. You see, Marcus, I am not just any member of the royal family. I am the heir to the throne. Someday I will rule the Arcturian Empire." Marcus felt his world starting to shift. This was much bigger than he had imagined. "My death would have caused terrible problems," Elena continued. "There are peace treaties that depend on my survival, alliances between different worlds that would have fallen apart. Without me, there would have been wars that could have destroyed billions of lives." She walked back to the table and sat down again. "By saving me, you prevented all of that destruction. You saved not just one life, but countless lives across the galaxy." Marcus sat quietly for a long moment, trying to process everything Elena had told him. It seemed impossible, but looking into her silver eyes, he believed every word. "What happens now?" Marcus asked finally. "Now we repay the debt," Elena said. "My father, the Emperor, is coming to Earth. He wants to meet the man who saved his daughter and prevented a galactic war." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "The Emperor is coming here? To Nebraska?" Elena smiled at his expression. "Not just him. The entire royal fleet. This is the biggest debt our people have ever owed to someone outside our empire. It requires a response that matches its importance." "But I'm just a janitor," Marcus protested. "I'm nobody special." "That is where you are wrong," Elena said firmly. "You are the most special person in the galaxy right now. What you did that night will change everything. Not just for you, but for all of humanity." She stood up again and smoothed down her sweater. "The fleet will arrive in 1 week. Before they do, representatives from your government will want to speak with you. They will ask you many questions about what happened that night." Marcus felt overwhelmed. "What should I tell them?" "Tell them the truth," Elena said simply. "Tell them you helped a hungry child because it was the right thing to do." Elena walked toward the cafeteria door, then turned back to Marcus one more time. "Thank you, Marcus Thompson," she said, "for the sandwich, for the soup, for the warmth of your jacket. But most of all, thank you for showing me that there is still pure kindness in the universe." With that, she walked out of the cafeteria, leaving Marcus alone with his mop and his racing thoughts. Marcus sat at the table for a long time after Elena left. He pulled the glowing stone from his pocket and held it up to the light. It pulsed, gently, like a slow heartbeat. His simple life as a night janitor was about to become much more complicated. But somehow, Marcus was not afraid. He had done nothing wrong. He had simply helped someone who needed help. As he finished his cleaning, that night, Marcus wondered what his quiet little town would think when alien ships filled the sky. He wondered what the government would ask him and what the Emperor would be like, but mostly he was glad that the scared little girl with silver eyes had made it home safely. That was what mattered most to him. Everything else he would figure out as it came. Admiral Robert Hayes was having his morning coffee when the alert came through. He nearly spilled the hot liquid all over his desk at the Space Command Center in Colorado Springs. "Sir, you need to see this," his communications officer called, out across the busy control room. "We have multiple large objects entering our solar system. They're not asteroids." Admiral Hayes set down his coffee cup and walked quickly to the main display screen. What he saw there made his blood run cold, then hot with excitement. Dozens of massive ships hung in space beyond Mars. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, sleek, beautiful, and clearly advanced far beyond Earth's technology. The ships seemed to glow with their own light, and they moved with purpose through the darkness. "Are they hostile?" Admiral Hayes asked, though he was already reaching for the red phone that connected him directly to the president. "No, sir," the communications officer replied, checking her instruments. "They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The message is in perfect English." Admiral Hayes listened as the alien message played through the control room speakers. The voice was calm and dignified, with an accent he could not identify. "Greetings to the people of Earth. We are the Arcturian Empire. We come in peace to honor a sacred debt owed to one of your people. We formally request permission to enter Earth's atmosphere for diplomatic purposes. We mean no harm to your world or your people." The message repeated several times in different languages before starting over in English. Admiral Hayes grabbed the red phone. "Get me the president. Now." 3 hours later, Marcus Thompson was mopping the floors at Riverside Elementary when 3 black cars pulled up outside. Marcus watched through the window as men and women in dark suits got out and walked toward the main entrance. The principal, Mrs. Anderson, met them at the door. Marcus could not hear what they were saying, but he could see Mrs. Anderson pointing toward the custodial office. Marcus put away his mop and walked slowly toward the front of the building. His heart was beating fast. Elena had said this would happen, but it still felt unreal. "Mr. Thompson?" A woman in a navy blue suit approached him. She was tall and professional, with short blonde hair and serious eyes. "My name is Colonel Patricia Wells. I work for the government. We need to talk to you about your contact with the alien princess." Marcus nodded. "Elena said you would come." Colonel Wells raised an eyebrow. "Elena? The alien gave you her name?" "She told me a lot of things," Marcus said simply. "Would you like to sit down? The cafeteria has bigger tables." Colonel Wells and her team followed Marcus to the familiar cafeteria. They sat at the same table where Marcus had found Elena 3 months ago. The irony was not lost on him. "Mr. Thompson," Colonel Wells began, "what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. As of this morning, Earth is facing the biggest event in human history." She opened a tablet and showed Marcus pictures of the alien fleet. The ships looked even more impressive in the photographs than Marcus had imagined. "There are 47 ships out there," Colonel Wells continued. "The smallest one is larger than our biggest aircraft carrier. The largest one is the size of Manhattan. They're all here because of you." Marcus looked at the pictures with wonder. "Elena said her father was coming to visit. Her father is the Emperor of the Arcturian Empire," Colonel Wells said. "According to our best calculations, his empire controls hundreds of worlds and trillions of people, and he's coming here personally to meet a janitor from Nebraska, one." Of the other agents, a man with gray hair and kind eyes spoke up. "Mr. Thompson, can you tell us exactly what happened the night you met the princess?" Marcus told them the whole story, about finding Elena under the table, cold and hungry, about sharing his sandwich and soup, about letting her sleep in his office and finding her gone in the morning. The agents took notes and asked detailed questions. They wanted to know everything Elena had said, everything she had done, everything Marcus had noticed about her. The stone, Colonel Wells said when Marcus mentioned the glowing object Elena had left behind. "Do you still have it?" Marcus pulled the smooth stone from his pocket. It pulsed gently with inner light, just as it had for the past 3 months. The agents stared at it with fascination. One of them pulled out a device that looked like a scanner and pointed it at the stone. "It's emitting some kind of energy signature," the agent reported. "But it's not harmful. If anything, it seems to have healing properties." Colonel Wells leaned forward. "Mr. Thompson, I need you to understand something. What you did that night wasn't just helping a lost child. According to the aliens, you prevented a galactic war. Princess Elena is crucial to peace treaties between several alien civilizations. Without her, billions of beings could have died in the conflicts that would have followed." Marcus felt the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. "I didn't know any of that. I just saw a hungry kid." "That's exactly what makes this so remarkable," the gray-haired agent said with a smile. "You didn't help her because she was important. You helped her because it was the right thing to do." Colonel Wells closed her tablet and looked directly at Marcus. "The aliens want to repay what they call a life debt. In their culture, this is sacred law. They have to repay you in a way that matches the importance of what you saved." "What does that mean?" Marcus asked, though he was starting to suspect the answer would change his life forever. "It means they want to share their technology with humanity," Colonel Wells said. "Medicine that can cure diseases we've never been able to treat. Energy, sources that could end poverty. Transportation that could let us explore the stars." She paused to let that sink in. "All because you shared your dinner with a scared little girl." Marcus sat quietly for a moment, thinking about Elena and how frightened she had been that night. Then he looked up at the government agents. "When do I meet the Emperor?" he asked. Colonel Wells smiled for the first time since arriving. Tomorrow morning. He's coming down in a smaller ship to meet with you and the president. The meeting will be at the White House. The White House? Marcus felt dizzy. I've never even been out of Nebraska. Don't worry, the gray-haired agent said kindly. We'll take care of everything. You just need to be yourself. From what the princess told them about you, that's exactly what they want to meet. That evening, Marcus finished his cleaning shift as usual. But instead of going home to his small apartment, he was driven to the local airport where a government jet was waiting. As the plane lifted off, Marcus looked down at the lights of his small town growing smaller below. He thought about Elena, scared and cold under that cafeteria table. He thought about the Emperor flying across space to meet him. He thought about the changes coming to Earth. But mostly he thought about how strange it was that sharing a peanut butter sandwich could change the entire world. Marcus touched the glowing stone in his pocket and smiled. Tomorrow would bring things he had never imagined. But tonight, he was still just a janitor who had helped a hungry child, and somehow, that felt like enough. Marcus had never seen anything like the White House. He stood in the Oval Office wearing his best suit, which Colonel Wells had helped him buy the night before. President Catherine Stone sat behind the famous desk, while advisors and scientists filled the room. Through the tall windows, Marcus could see a ship landing on the south lawn. It was smaller than the massive vessels in space, but still twice the size of any aircraft Marcus had ever seen. The ship made no noise as it settled, gently onto the grass. "Remember, Mr. Thompson," President Stone said kindly. "Just be yourself. These beings respect honesty and simple kindness above all else." The doors to the Oval Office opened and Elena walked in first. She wore elegant robes that seemed to shift color in the light, from deep blue to silver to gold. Behind her came a man who could only be the Emperor. Emperor Darius was tall and dignified, with the same silver eyes as his daughter. His hair was white with age, but his face was strong and wise. He wore simple robes of deep purple and a small crown that looked like it was made of crystallized starlight. "Your Majesty," President Stone said, standing and bowing slightly. Emperor Darius walked directly to Marcus and stopped in front of him. For a moment, the two men looked at each other in silence. Then the Emperor did something that surprised everyone in the room. He knelt down on one knee before Marcus. "Rise, please," Marcus said quickly, feeling embarrassed. "I'm nobody special." Emperor Darius stood and smiled. "That is exactly why you are the most special person in this galaxy. Marcus Thompson." Elena stepped forward. "Father, this is the man who saved my life." The Emperor nodded and gestured toward the seating area. "Please let us sit together. I have much to explain." When everyone was seated, Emperor Darius began to speak. His voice was deep and warm, filled with emotion. "Marcus Thompson, my daughter, has told me what you did for her. How you found her cold and hungry, and without question you shared your food and warmth. You asked for nothing in return. You expected no reward." The Emperor paused and looked around the room. "What you may not understand is the full meaning of your actions that night." Dr. James Mitchell, Earth's leading expert on alien contact, leaned forward. "Your Majesty, we know that Princess Elena is important to your empire. But could you help us understand exactly what Marcus prevented?" Emperor Darius nodded to his daughter, who activated a device that projected images into the air above them. The images showed star maps with different colored regions marking various empires and territories. "My daughter Elena is not just the heir to our throne," the Emperor explained. "She is the keystone of the Galactic Peace Accords. These agreements prevent war between 4 major civilizations that control most of this galaxy." The images showed massive fleets of warships, each belonging to different alien races. Marcus had never imagined that space was so crowded with intelligent life. Elena was returning from negotiations that took 3 years to complete, the Emperor continued. These talks established trade routes, territorial boundaries, and conflict resolution procedures between our peoples. Elena pointed to different areas of the star map. Without these accords, Father, show them what the war projections looked like. The images changed to show red lines spreading across the galaxy like a disease. Battles, destroyed worlds, refugee, streams of billions of beings fleeing their homes. Our best military analysts calculated that without the peace accords, the resulting wars would have lasted for centuries, the Emperor said grimly. Conservative estimates suggested 400 billion deaths across multiple worlds, President Stone gasped. 400 billion? The peace accords require my daughter to live to at least the age of 100 in your years, Emperor Darius explained. She must rule for a minimum of 50 years and produce an heir who can continue the agreements. If she had died that night, he gestured to the red-stained star map. All of this would have become reality. Marcus stared at the projected images, trying to comprehend the scale of what he was seeing. I had no idea. She was just a scared little girl. Exactly, the Emperor said, his voice filled with respect. You saw a being in need and you helped, regardless of who she was or where she came from. This is what we call pure compassion. It is the rarest and most valuable quality in the universe. Dr. Mitchell spoke up again. Your Majesty, Princess Elena mentioned a life debt. Could you explain what that means for Earth? Emperor Darius stood and walked to the windows, looking out at his ship on the lawn. In Arcturian law, a life debt must be repaid in proportion to its importance. Marcus Thompson did not just save one life. He saved billions of lives and prevented the collapse of galactic civilization. He turned back to face the room. Such a debt cannot be repaid with gold or jewels or simple gifts. It requires the transformation of the debtor's entire people. Transformation? President Stone asked. Elena activated the projector again. This time it showed images of advanced cities, incredible medical facilities, and ships traveling between stars. We offer humanity full membership in the galactic community, the Emperor said formally. We will share our technology, our knowledge, our resources. We will help your people overcome disease, poverty, and the limitations that keep you bound to this single world. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed what they had just heard. Marcus finally spoke. All of this because I shared my sandwich? Emperor Darius smiled. Your sandwich, your soup, your jacket, your kindness. But most importantly, your willingness to help a stranger without asking what you would gain from it. The Emperor walked back to Marcus and placed a hand on his shoulder. Marcus Thompson, you represent the best of humanity. You show us that your people are ready to join the larger universe. Your simple act of compassion has earned your entire species a place among the stars. Dr. Mitchell was frantically taking notes. What would this transformation involve? What technologies are we talking about? Elena answered, medical treatments that can extend human life to 300 years while eliminating most diseases. Energy sources that will end your dependence on fossil fuels. Transportation technology that will let you explore other worlds. Educational exchanges, the Emperor added. Your children learning alongside alien students. Your scientists working with researchers from a dozen different civilizations, your artists sharing their creations across the galaxy. President Stone looked overwhelmed. This is incredible, but why? Why would you give us so much? Because the debt demands it, Emperor Darius said simply, and because your species has produced someone like Marcus Thompson. If one human can show such kindness to a stranger, then humanity as a whole has the potential to become a great force for good in the galaxy. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What do you need from me? Be our ambassador, Elena said. Help us understand humanity, and help your people understand us. You have already proven that you can bridge the gap between different kinds of beings. Emperor Darius nodded. Will you accept this role, Marcus Thompson? Will you help us repay the debt you are owed? Marcus thought about his small apartment, his quiet job, his simple life. Then he thought about the scared little girl under the cafeteria table and how far she had traveled to find safety. Yes, Marcus said simply. I'll help however I can. The Emperor smiled and bowed again. Then let us begin the greatest adventure in human history. Outside the windows, more ships were descending from the sky, carrying the tools and knowledge that would change Earth forever. And it all started with a peanut butter sandwich shared in kindness with a hungry child. 6 months after the meeting at the White House, Marcus stood in what used to be the parking lot of Riverside Elementary School. Now it was home to a gleaming medical center that looked like something from a science fiction movie. The building was made of a material that seemed to glow with soft light. Arcturian doctors worked alongside human physicians, treating patients with diseases that had been considered incurable just months before. Marcus watched as Dr. Sarah Williams emerged from the center with tears of joy on her face. She had been treating a young boy with leukemia for 2 years. Yesterday, the Arcturian healers had used their advanced technology to completely cure him in less than an hour. Marcus, Dr. Williams called out as she approached him, I don't know how to thank you. Little Tommy gets to grow up now because of what you did. Marcus smiled and patted her shoulder. I just shared my dinner with a hungry kid. You're the one doing the real work here. This had become Marcus's new reality. Every day brought more changes, more miracles, more people whose lives were being transformed by the technology the Arcturians were sharing. The changes had started slowly. The first medical centers appeared in major cities around the world. Then came the energy stations that provided clean, unlimited power to entire regions. The Arcturians had also shared farming techniques that could grow food in deserts and feed millions of hungry people. But the most important changes were happening in schools like Riverside Elementary. Marcus walked through the familiar hallways, though they looked very different now. The classrooms had been expanded and equipped with holographic displays that could show students the surface of distant planets or the inside of a human cell in perfect detail. In one classroom, he found his friend Mrs. Patterson teaching a mixed group of human and alien children. 3 young Arcturians sat alongside local kids, all working together on a project about solar systems. Mr. Marcus called out 7-year-old Amy Chen, one of his favorite students. Look what I learned today. Amy held up a small device and pressed a button. Suddenly, a perfect 3-dimensional model of the galaxy appeared floating above her desk. She pointed to different stars and named the civilizations that lived there. Very impressive, Marcus said with a warm smile. Are you going to be an astronaut when you grow up? Better than that, Amy said excitedly. I'm going to be a galactic ambassador just like you. Marcus had indeed become Earth's first galactic ambassador, though he still preferred to think of himself as a janitor who had gotten very lucky. His job now was to help both species understand each other better. President Stone had asked him to live in Washington, but Marcus had chosen to stay in Nebraska. This was where the miracle had started, and this was where he could do the most good. He walked to his old custodial office, which had been converted into his new workspace. The room was now equipped with communication devices that could reach any world in the Arcturian Empire instantly. Elena appeared on the main screen as Marcus sat down at his desk. She was back on Arcturus Prime, but they spoke every day. Good morning, Marcus, Elena said with her usual warm smile. How are things progressing? Better than I ever imagined, Marcus replied. The medical center has treated over 1,000 patients this week. The new farms are producing enough food to feed the entire county, and the kids are loving their new classrooms. Elena nodded approvingly. My father is very pleased with the progress. The other emperors have been watching Earth closely, and they are impressed by how quickly your people are adapting. Marcus had learned that the Arcturian Empire was part of an alliance with 3 other major galactic powers: Earth's successful integration into galactic society was being seen as a model for other developing worlds. There have been some challenges, Marcus admitted. Some people are afraid that we're losing our humanity by accepting so much alien technology. Elena's expression became serious. What do you think about that concern? Marcus thought for a moment. I think humanity's strength has always been our ability to learn and grow. The technology is just tools. What matters is how we use them. He gestured toward the window where children of multiple species were playing together in the schoolyard. Look at those kids. They're not becoming less human by learning about other worlds. They're becoming better humans. Elena smiled again. That is exactly what my father hoped you would say. Marcus, there is something I need to tell you. The Galactic Council has voted to offer Earth full membership in the Alliance. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. Full membership? What does that mean? It means humanity will have a voice in decisions that affect the entire galaxy, Elena explained. Your people will be equals, not just recipients of our technology. You will help decide policies for trade, exploration, and peacekeeping across hundreds of worlds. Marcus leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Elena was telling him. Why? We've only been part of this community for 6 months. Because in those 6 months, you have shown remarkable wisdom and compassion, Elena said. Your people have used our gifts to help each other, not to gain power over others. You have treated our children as your own and welcomed our teachers into your schools. She paused and looked directly at Marcus through the screen. But mostly because you, Marcus Thompson, have shown us what humanity is capable of at its best. That evening, Marcus walked through his old neighborhood. The streets were cleaner now, lit by Arcturian energy sources that produced no pollution. The houses had been upgraded with medical monitoring systems that could detect and treat illnesses before they became serious. But what Marcus noticed most was the sense of hope in people's faces. Children who had been sick were now healthy. Families who had struggled with poverty now had enough to eat. Elderly people who had been lonely now had alien friends who visited them regularly. Marcus stopped at the small diner where he often ate breakfast. Inside, he found an unusual scene. Tom Bradley, the gruff owner, was teaching a young Arcturian how to make pancakes. The alien student was taking careful notes while Tom explained the importance of getting the batter just right. Evening, Marcus, Tom called out when he saw him. Want to meet my new apprentice? His name is Kevin, and he's fascinated by human cooking. Kevin looked up from his notes and bowed politely to Marcus. Ambassador Thompson, it is an honor to meet you. Tom has been teaching me about the cultural significance of breakfast foods in human society. Marcus sat down at the counter and ordered his usual coffee. Learning anything interesting? Oh, yes, Kevin said enthusiastically. Human food preparation involves much more than nutrition. It is about community, tradition, and showing care for others. Very similar to how you shared your meal with Princess Elena. Tom nodded and flipped a pancake with practiced skill. Kids got a point. Cooking's always been about taking care of people. Same thing you did that night, just on a bigger scale. As Marcus sipped his coffee and watched Tom teach Kevin the art of making pancakes, he realized something important. The technology and knowledge the Arcturians had shared was incredible, but the real transformation had been simpler than that. Humanity had learned that they were not alone in the universe. More importantly, they had learned that kindness and compassion were universal languages that could bridge any gap between different species. Marcus finished his coffee and walked home to his small apartment. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities. There would be more decisions to make about Earth's future, more problems to solve, and more bridges to build between worlds. But tonight, Marcus was content to be what he had always been, a simple man who believed in helping others when they needed it. The fact that this simple belief had changed the galaxy was just a bonus. He pulled out the glowing stone Elena had left him all those months ago. It pulsed gently in his hand, warm and reassuring. Tomorrow, Earth would take its place as a full member of the galactic community, all because a janitor had shared his sandwich with a hungry child. 5 years had passed since Marcus Thompson first found a scared little girl hiding under a cafeteria table. Now he stood in that same cafeteria, but everything had changed in the most wonderful ways. The room was larger now, with windows that could display views of any world in the galaxy. Students from a dozen different planets sat together at tables, sharing meals and stories from their home worlds. Marcus wore his old janitor uniform by choice, though it now had a small badge marking him as an official ambassador of Earth. He still preferred to think of himself as the school custodian, even though his job had grown somewhat larger. "Mr. Marcus," called out a young voice. Marcus turned to see Maria Santos, now 12 years old, approaching with a tall, blue-skinned boy about her age. "Maria, good to see you," Marcus said with a warm smile. "How are you enjoying the exchange program?" "It's amazing," Maria said excitedly. "This is my friend Xander from Kepler 442. He's going to spend the whole school year here learning about Earth culture." Xander bowed politely in the traditional greeting of his people. "Ambassador Thompson, it is an honor to meet the human who brought peace to the galaxy." Marcus chuckled and patted the young alien's shoulder. "Just call me Mr. Marcus, and I didn't bring peace to anyone. I just helped a friend when she needed it." This had become Marcus's standard response to the praise he received daily. People from across the galaxy knew his story now. Children on distant worlds learned about the human janitor who had shown kindness to a stranger and changed the universe. But Marcus had never let the fame change who he was at heart. Queen Elena appeared in the doorway, no longer the scared child, or young woman Marcus remembered, but a confident ruler who had recently taken the throne from her retired father. She wore simple clothes and a small crown, preferring to blend in during her frequent visits to Earth. "Marcus," Elena said, approaching with her usual warm smile. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Never too busy for an old friend," Marcus replied, "though I think the kids get more excited about your visits than mine." Indeed, the cafeteria had gone quiet as students of all species recognized the young queen. Elena waved at them and made her way to Marcus's usual table by the window. "I have news," Elena said as they sat down. "The Galactic Council has approved Earth's proposal for the Compassion Initiative." Marcus felt a surge of pride. The Compassion Initiative had been his idea, developed over years of working with different alien species. It was a program to teach the values of kindness and empathy to children across the galaxy. "All of it?" Marcus asked. Elena nodded. "Everything. Teacher exchanges between 100 different worlds, compassion education in schools across 50 star systems, and the emergency response teams you suggested." The emergency response teams were Marcus's favorite part of the program. Mixed groups of humans and aliens who would travel to worlds facing disasters, providing aid without asking for anything in return, just helping because it was the right thing to do. "There's more," Elena continued. "The council wants you to head the entire program. You would travel to different worlds, setting up schools and training teachers in what we've come to call the Thompson Method." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "The Thompson Method?" "Teaching children that kindness to strangers is the most important skill in the universe," Elena explained with a grin. "Showing them that helping others, regardless of their species or background, creates connections that can change everything." Marcus looked around the cafeteria at the children of multiple worlds eating lunch together, laughing and learning from each other. 5 years ago, most humans had never imagined that alien life existed. Now their children were best friends with beings from distant stars. "I'm honored," Marcus said finally, "but I'd like to keep working here too. This school is where it all started." Elena smiled. "I thought you might say that. The council has agreed to make Riverside Elementary the headquarters for the Compassion Initiative. You can coordinate the program from here while still doing what you love most." That evening, Marcus finished his cleaning rounds just as he had for over 13 years. But now his rounds included checking on the meditation gardens where Arcturian students practiced their cultural traditions and making sure the zero-gravity sports room was properly maintained. As he worked, Marcus thought about all the changes he had witnessed. Diseases that had killed millions were now easily cured. Hunger had been eliminated on Earth through advanced farming techniques. Clean energy powered every home and business. But the changes Marcus was most proud of were simpler than that. Human children who had learned to see all beings as potential, friends. Alien visitors who had discovered that humans were capable of remarkable kindness. A galaxy where differences were celebrated instead of feared. Marcus was putting away his cleaning supplies when he heard a familiar sound. Soft crying coming from the cafeteria. He walked quietly toward the sound and found a small figure huddled under one of the tables. It was a child Marcus had never seen before, with purple skin and large golden eyes. The child's clothes were torn and dirty, and they shivered with cold and fear. Marcus felt his heart tighten with recognition and compassion. He crouched down slowly and spoke in the same gentle voice he had used with Elena so many years ago. "Hey there, little one. Are you okay?" The child looked up at him with frightened eyes and said something in a language Marcus didn't recognize. But he understood the meaning perfectly. The child was lost, scared, and hungry. Marcus smiled and held out his hand. "It's okay. I'm here to help." He led the child to his office and wrapped them in his spare jacket, just as he had done for Elena. From his dinner bag, he pulled out a sandwich and a thermos of soup, sharing them without question or hesitation. As the child ate gratefully, Marcus activated his communication device and contacted Elena. "We have another visitor," Marcus said when Elena appeared on the screen. Elena saw the child, and her expression immediately became concerned and then relieved. "That's Prince Kell from the Vega system. His transport was attacked by raiders 2 days ago. We've been searching everywhere for him." Marcus looked at the small prince, who was now sleeping peacefully in the chair, wrapped in Marcus's jacket. "Well, he's safe now." Elena smiled with deep affection for her old friend. "Marcus Thompson, do you realize you just prevented another potential galactic crisis? Prince Kell is crucial to peace negotiations in the Outer Rim territories." Marcus shrugged. "I just saw a hungry kid who needed help." "And that," Elena said softly, "is exactly why the galaxy is a better place with humans in it." As Elena arranged for a ship to come collect the young prince, Marcus sat beside the sleeping child and pulled out the glowing stone Elena had given him years ago. It pulsed gently in the dim light, warm and reassuring. Marcus thought about how his life had changed since that first cold February night. He had met emperors and presidents, traveled to distant worlds, and helped shape policies that affected trillions of beings across the galaxy. But at the end of the day, Marcus was still the same person he had always been. A simple man who believed that when someone was hungry, you shared your food. When someone was cold, you offered warmth. When someone was afraid, you showed them kindness. The fact that this simple philosophy had become the foundation of galactic civilization was something Marcus would never fully understand. But he didn't need to understand it. He just needed to keep living it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities. There would be more schools to build, more children to teach, and more bridges to construct between different worlds and species. But tonight, Marcus was content to sit quietly beside a sleeping alien child, knowing that somewhere in the galaxy, another small act of kindness had prevented untold suffering and brought hope to billions of beings. Marcus Thompson had learned that the universe was vast and full of wonders beyond imagination. But the most wonderful thing of all was that no matter how advanced civilizations became, no matter how far technology progressed, the simple act of helping a stranger in need would always be the most powerful force in existence. And that was a lesson worth sharing with every child in the galaxy, human and alien alike. The custodian smiled, turned off the lights, and headed home, ready for whatever tomorrow might bring. After all, you never knew when you might find another hungry child who needed a friend.